Welcome back to Primetime. It's Mark Shuey. It's Joe Shuey here holding it down for us. And we are coming off another, and I feel like I'm going to jinx myself here. We both got one more going tonight. But coming off another scorching hot week so far, we are both 4 for 4 on the best bets. Joe, how you feel, man?
I'm feeling good. Coming off when I had 8 bets last week. Still have the one tonight. So far 6 out of 8. One we lost was our forced bet on the Buffalo Green Bay game. Won by 10. Our bet was 10.5. So close one. Almost had it. And we got Cincinnati tonight at -3 against Cleveland.
Yeah, I was laying a lot of points last week. I laid them on the Eagles. They ended up coming through for me at 10.5. Laid them on Dallas. They came up through for me on 10.5. Those were two best bets for me. Buffalo, we did come to a consensus, but it wasn't a best bet, so we weren't blessed with that one. But even still, through these past 4 or 5 weeks, we're 7-0 when we are in agreement on best bets. We're hoping that we can make it 8-0 tonight. Let's jump right into that game. We've got Cincinnati at Cleveland. It was moving a little bit. It was -3 pretty much all week. I saw today it moved its way to -3.5. It's back at 3 now. If the lines are up and updated. So last week it was a best bet for us -3, but Jamar Chase was still kind of in the picture. He might have been playing this week for all we knew. Now he's out. What do we think?
I'm still taking Cincinnati -3 as a best bet. Cleveland. You don't know what Cleveland you're going to get. Cleveland has come out in some games and really stunk it up. Some games they come out and they've run the ball really well. If Cincinnati's defense can hold Cleveland's run game, I think that they should be able to have a really good shot at winning this game.
Yeah, I still think that the swag, just because Jamar Chase is gone, I don't think the swag on Cincinnati is lost. I think Joe Burrow is he's fully locked in. I think he had a little bit of a slow start here going into the season, but he's ready to go. I think this is a great rushing opportunity for Joe Mixon here. I think ultimately you're going to see Tyler Boyd step up. You might see Hayden Hurst step up. T. Higgins might be able to show us what he can do as an alpha here. I still like it. It's not a. If we were redoing our best bets, it wouldn't be a best bet for me, but I'm still willing to bet it at -3. Heading into our fantasy week for this week 9, we got 6 teams on bye. We've got Cleveland missing. We've got Dallas missing going into week 9. Denver, the Giants, Pittsburgh, San Francisco. That's big name players. We got CeeDee Lamb. We've got Nick Chubb. We've got Dak Prescott. Tony Pollard. Should I say Tony Pollard here? You've got a couple of the guys on Denver. What's his name just is popping off right now, the tight end.
Dulcich?
Greg Dulcich, sorry. Yes, thank you. Giants playing well. They threw up a brick this week, but they've been playing well. So Pittsburgh, San Francisco, really San Francisco is probably the biggest one. And we witnessed probably the number one fantasy asset out there now in Christian McCaffrey doing it all ways that he can this past week for San Francisco. Only a week removed from being traded, his stock has, if it could go any higher, it's gone there for me.
I'm so curious to see what happens when Debo comes back and is healthy. I'm gonna see how those two get a full workload together. I think that McCaffrey ends up taking some touches from Debo, and I think McCaffrey's still going to keep him as a focal point. You can't not do it.
Yeah, I think that ambiguity is what San Francisco wants. I think there will still be some rushing plays from Debo Samuel, but Debo doesn't even want to be he doesn't want to be a rusher. That's what his whole fight over the past offseason has been about. So I think it's going to work out well for everybody. I think ultimately all these guys care about is winning. I know that these guys are going to make plays. Debo is still going to make big plays for you on the regular, and he does on every week that he's out there. He does something that makes you say wow, and usually helps your fantasy team while doing it. So I'm not too worried about Debo. If you're thinking dynasty stock down, I don't know I think that's probably a little, you're kind of playing yourself a little bit, but I guess in the short term, if you want to see it that way, if you can get a haul for Debo, go ahead. But I still think all these guys, I think ultimately it just condenses the offense into what you want it to be. Now Jimmy Garoppolo has that dump off target that he can sort of have, and Kittle was able to work his way and get himself a touchdown there at the end of the game. He's had 2 in the past 2 weeks. You've seen Ayuk looking really good, and I think ultimately when Debo makes his way back in here, it's not going to be a real problem. But right now, it's a problem because they're not there for your fantasy teams. Again, 6 teams on bye, so really be on that waiver wire. Make sure you find some players that might be coming off bye that are there. We were just talking before the show about Josh Palmer. I also like DeAndre Carter as a guy that you might be able to pick up on waivers for the Chargers. That might help you out here with Mike Williams out. But there's a lot of players that are going to be missing this week, so make sure that you are proactive on getting your waivers in this week. Let's go right into the primetime games. We're gonna switch it up a little bit, and we're just gonna go through all the primetime games right at once. I think it helps us, just sort of see what the slate looks like. So let's go to Thursday Night Football. The Philadelphia Eagles heading to Houston, home of Deshaun Watson right now, and we are both picking up the best bet, laying the points again with the Eagles minus 13. Joe, tell me what you think about this one.
I said this last week a couple times. I'm usually not a big fan of laying the points, but Houston is bad, and Philly just looks like they can put points up against anybody. And I think this should be a game that Philly just runs away with it early, controls the game. I mean, A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts have that incredible chemistry right now. I think when I checked the stat line, AJB had 5 catches for like 113 yards and 3 touchdowns, right? It's like insane. And all those catches, if you look at all of them in like the freeze frames, he was in double coverage in every single one of those. It's like you can't stop the guy.
Well, that was his taunt. He's pointing out 1, 2, 3. That's what he was doing out there when he was doing his celebration. They were calling it a taunt, but really he's just counting the defenders on him. Could have had a 4th touchdown in this game. Didn't end up happening, but I don't think he can get greedy with what AJ Brown did. That Godfather stack, as we've dubbed it, AJ Brown and Jalen Hurts is probably winning a lot of fantasy leagues right now.
Oh, yeah.
Love to see what AJ Brown's doing. This is a big game though for Jalen Hurts coming back to Houston. Ultimately, I think he's going to try and show out, right? If you like the over, I kind of like the over at 43.5. I think if you think Jalen's going to put up, if you're putting up at least 28 points, it's tough for me because I could easily see Houston only laying 7 or 10. But I don't mind if you wanted to double dip and take the over and the spread with the Eagles. But it's hard for me right now. Houston looks lost. Davis Mills is kind of turning back into a pumpkin. He's not that hotness that you saw in the offseason and through the first couple weeks. His receiving core is kind of depleted. Brandon Cooks, I guess, is not going to be traded. Well, he could be traded tomorrow. We're not really sure what that's going to look like. So I'm going to lean that minus 13 is going to be plenty. Anything else on this game, Joe?
Nope. I hope Cooks gets traded, though.
I hope he does, too.
He is big stinker on a lot of my rosters this year.
Maybe he can find somewhere that he can take like a Larry Fitz type role and do some slot work, and because I think he's still a good receiver, but I think if he's like the only guy in town, you're kind of screwed. Let's move on. Tennessee. This is Sunday Night Football now. Tennessee is going to Kansas City, and right now the line is minus 12.5 on DraftKings, and the over under 46.5. Right now I want to take the Chiefs, but this is an avoid for me. 12.5 just seems like too much. And I know that I'm happy to lay the favorites, but when you're laying when you're laying 13 points with the Eagles and you see them 7-0 against the spread, you feel a little better about that.
And they're playing Houston.
Yes, and they're playing Houston. That's the other thing.
That was the biggest factor for me there. Looking at the Tennessee Chiefs game, I mean, Tennessee's no slouch. They have a pretty solid defense. I mean, going in the Arrowhead is tough, but 12.5 is it's tough, especially even with Mahomes. It's tough to put down.
Yeah, I mean, if you start to see like Malik Willis is going to be playing again, I feel like this is probably easier for me to take. But ultimately, if the rookie's going in, there's a lot more likelihood for mistakes. Honestly, if Tannehill's in though, I kind of like him as a fantasy option, as a streaming kind of quarterback for you. Tennessee's like number 3 against the pass right now, or at least for fantasy quarterbacks, number 3 against fantasy quarterbacks this year. He can still get a little rushing going a little bit, but I think if it's Malik Willis, they're going to do everything they can to slow this game down and shut it down. And even if they lose, obviously Kansas City can light it up, but Tennessee does have a good defense, and they have made the Chiefs respect their game before, that they've kept it close and not made it a shootout. It's been a while, but I think it's possible still. Vrabel's still a pretty good coach. So right now it's an avoid for me. I guess I technically lean that way, but we're both calling it a avoid right now. And moving into Monday night, it's Joe's Baltimore Ravens at New Orleans. New Orleans just came off blanking the Raiders at home. And Joe, you've got a best bet. Go ahead.
I do. And this always comes up in my best bets, and I am taking my Ravens again at 2.5-point favorites. This was 3 over the weekend. I like the 2.5 better. Knowing my Ravens, they very well could make this a field goal game, so I'll take the 2.5 there. But our defense is starting to click. We might be getting Tyus Bowser back this week, which is big for our defense. We're going to be without Bateman for a couple weeks, but I think that the coaching staff is realizing that Isaiah Likely is an absolute matchup monster. And even with Andrews on the field, they're going to get him on there and get him targets. He looked phenomenal when he took over the role from Andrews, and I think they're going to do whatever they can to get both those guys on the field, creating mismatches everywhere. So I'm going to take my Ravens at 2.5 best bet. I just hope that Andy, the Red Rocket Dalton, doesn't come in and have the Ravens number like he has in some of these games when he was in Cincinnati.
Yeah, that's the only thing that I would be worried about. I think Dalton has been capable. The Saints have sneakily kind of figured something out with Dalton here. I know that he threw he still threw two or three touchdowns. Was it 3 touchdowns that he threw when he threw those 2 pick sixes in Arizona on Thursday night? I can't remember off the top of my head, but he's still scoring for you. So as long as you're not getting penalized for pick sixes, Andy Dalton is probably a pretty good streaming quarterback as well. The only thing I'd be worried about is, again, the lack of Ravens pass catching weapons. But like you said, Likely fits really well in their scheme, even with Andrews on the field. They run more 2 tight end sets than I think any other team in the league right now. So he could easily be a threat and then when Bateman comes back, it just becomes a nice sort of seamless thing. Andrews, do we know how long Andrews is going to be out at this point?
They said he's really day to day. It's really minor. And he'll play. I mean, we had a game Thursday and we're playing Monday, so we have the 12-day rest or 11-day rest.
It's almost the full bye, to be honest. Right. It's pretty close.
Speaking of the Ravens, Roquan Smith, baby. Big trade.
There you go. So, and what did they give up for that?
They gave a second, a fifth, and then Klein, who was one of our special teams reserve linebackers.
Yeah, I mean that's, again, like you're saying, the Ravens offense is starting to click. Adding a piece like Roquan is really valuable.
My only fear is that he becomes a 10-game rental, because he is on that last year of his contract, and he's gonna get big money in free agency next year. So, I mean, if he stays healthy and leaves, we probably get the 3rd round comp pick for him. But I'd love for us to be able to re-sign him to a contract early and keep him on the team.
Yeah, well, the way you guys are turning around 4th round picks off this past draft, you think it might not be so bad. But yeah, having a guy like Roquan just walk out the door after 10 months, especially if you don't end up making your way to the Super Bowl,
exactly,
might feel a little bit you might feel some type of way about that. But for me, I actually kind of lean the other way. I'm avoiding, to be honest, and you can find the line still at 3 in a couple different places. So I would probably lean towards New Orleans again. I like at home. I just feel like they're pretty good at covering at home, and they've been able to put up some points. I don't, if it becomes a scoring affair, not that I don't think Baltimore will be able to keep up, but I don't know if they're going to be able to bring it out of hand. You know what I mean? So I'm leaning that other way. But Shuey's got it. Best bet Baltimore -2.5. Let's go on into the Sunday slated games, and we're going to start with some of our fantasy favorites. Shuey, you got a ton of fantasy favorites, my friend. I'm looking. You got.
I do, honestly. And a lot of it's one-sided, just because I have especially in my dynasty leagues, there's some guys that I have very high rostered percentages across my 30 some leagues that I'm in.
Yeah. I mean, like you have KC Tennessee as a fantasy favorite. I think that's a pretty good one. But also probably we're starting all of our Chiefs, right? And we know we're starting Derrick Henry and all
Oh
that.
yeah, well that's I mean, still looking at that, like their
Are
core
there? I
guys
guess
on
what
the
I'm
team.
asking are there other plays like deeper plays that you might like from that game?
I mean, you said Tannehill's a good streamer. I mean, people are going to be on the fence between Clyde Edwards-Helaire and putting Juju in their lineups, depending on how deep your lineups are. But I mean, those are guys that I'm still would probably play. I mean, 46.5 points. That's a pretty good over under right there. And I don't know. Those are guys that I feel like I'd be watching closely to this game to see how these guys do, especially on a primetime game.
No, I don't. I mean, I don't have this as a fantasy favorite, but I agree with you because I want to highlight a couple of my own because really, coming out of the bye, you have a lot of these rookies that might get a little bit of a bump. We even saw. I know it wasn't much, but we saw James Cook coming off Buffalo's bye. He got a few more touches, got a few more looks. I don't think it's amounted to a ton, but he's on his way to moving up. So maybe if you've got, if you can find an Isaiah Pacheco from Kansas City, and again this week is there's going to be a ton of people out on bye, and you just need a guy to plug and play. A guy like Isaiah Pacheco, a guy like Sky Moore is not the worst play for me in this kind of week. Like strategically, you've got a good offense, you've got a good piece of that offense, and then one that might be able to see an uptick in targets coming off of their bye. So I don't mind that play, especially if it's long term. But even if you want to plug them into a lineup, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Moving on to another one of our fantasy plays, we've got the Chargers going to Atlanta to take on the Falcons, and that over under is 49.5, and Chargers are favored by 3. I'm actually leaning Chargers -3. Shuey, you look like you're going the other way.
I do, and I think that this one is lining up as one of our only potential shoe versus shoeys for this week. But big thing for me here is West Coast team coming to East Coast for a 1 o'clock game. Historically, it doesn't go very well for the West Coast team, and I mean Atlanta has done really well against the spread this year. Pitts looks like he's potentially back alive and in this offense, even though Drake London looks like he is down and out in the last couple of weeks. Algiers been getting some touches for Atlanta, so I think that they can keep it close. It's a lean for me to Atlanta here at home against the West Coast team, but I want to see what this Chargers offense can do if Keenan Allen comes back because they're out with Mike Williams. So I think they desperately need Keenan Allen to come back this week, and I think coming off the bye week, it's going to be clutch for him. But that's one of the reasons why this is one of my fantasy favorites too. Is I have Keenan Allen in a lot of places. I have Austin Eckler in a lot of places, and a lot of teams that are in a push here to jump up the standings or either make a bigger gap between like that third, fourth, fifth place team in some of my leagues. So another one that I'm looking, it's got one of the highest over-unders on the week.
Yeah, 49.5 points. I love this as a fantasy favorite. I am kind of leading the other way. If we want to use this as the Shuey, I'm fine with that. We're both leaning it, so it seems pretty.
We didn't really have one last week.
Well, hey, I actually thought that I was gonna have to. I thought I was gonna have to pay for it, and you know what? Well, I mean, like I thought I was gonna have to pay for Tampa Bay and Baltimore, which I mean, like we went 4 for 4 again. I'm good. I'm fine taking another.
I won't give it to you because that line flipped completely. The Ravens were 2-point favorites when we made the bet, and then they were 2-point dogs when the game started. So
yeah,
I won't give that one to you.
Hey, that's fine. Hey, maybe what we do, a little behind the scenes talk for everybody out there watching. We're gonna be doing a waiver segment next week. Maybe we put them up against each other, and that's our Shuey every week. We'll put our waiver teams up against each other.
Okay.
We can do it that way. I mean, we can make it a bet too. We'll feel it out, see how it goes. But yeah, so the thing about why I'm leaning the Chargers is really because they're coming off a bye. I get that they're coming east. But I would think that they're a little more rested than the Falcons. Hopefully their defense they get a few of their key pieces back throughout this. We're gonna have to check and see about a couple different guys. I'm blanking on names right now. But either way, you're right. Atlanta has been able to hang, and they've been able to sort of cover the spread most of the time. It's kind of died off the past couple weeks. I still think I'm going to take the Chargers. I think they're the better team with the better quarterback, and that's why I'm leaning this direction right now. Moving on, another fantasy favorite, Miami at Chicago. And, a few weeks ago, you might not have thought of this as a fantasy favorite, but Justin Fields is starting to cook. He's starting to heat up a little bit. He's starting to get more of his receiving core involved. He's starting to move a rush with his legs. We saw a Cole Kmet sighting in the end zone last week. And so I don't know if any of his pieces are fantasy relevant. I can actually say probably other than the running backs, I would probably stay away. But I mean, Justin Fields is definitely fantasy viable. And I really hope that they turn this thing over to Khalil Herbert like full on. Like he looks way better than Montgomery does right now.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I was gonna say I'd stay away from both those running backs unless you have like a really deep like 3 flexes and you need to play one or you have people on bye. But I'm actually going to take another best bet in this game. I am taking Miami as the 3.5 point favorites. I think that Miami looks legit with Tua back there, and he's got Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, and he is finding those guys all over the field. And these defenses don't know how to stop them. They're too quick, and I don't think Chicago is going to be able to hang. I thought this spread was going to be slightly larger. I guess if you take this on a home game, what's that? Miami 9.5 point favorites.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I like Miami here at 3.5. I don't think that Chicago is going to put up too much of a fight. I don't think that they're going to be able to put up 20-ish points by what the inferred point total says there. So I'll take Miami as a best bet here at -3.5 and what I think should be a blowout.
Yeah, I think they'll probably still be competitive. Dallas, let's be honest, is just a way better team than Chicago is right now. But when they play a team that's a little closer in competition, not saying that Miami's necessarily that much closer, but like when you saw them against the Patriots on Monday night, you see that they're at least willing to compete. I feel like this line is about right. Not that I don't like it feels too close to right for me, and that's kind of why I'm staying away. If they gave me again, if it was a few more points, the other like where they, it was a 2.5 lean, I'd probably be all over this. But 3.5 just feels like it's just like a little too much for me. But I do like Miami to win. I probably, I might consider the money line. And this is a game that if you're feeling like the over and under is 43.5 right now. If you're feeling like, Chicago can kind of hang around, what do you think about the over in this game?
I like the over there. I was kind of surprised, honestly. There was a 1.5 point difference between FanDuel and DraftKings when I was editing some of the numbers in here. But that 43.5, I mean, does sound pretty enticing. I know Chicago can put some points up. I think that Miami could potentially score in that 27 to 34 range this week. Wouldn't need Chicago to put up that much. But yeah, that 30 can't talk today. 43.5 does look pretty good.
Yeah, it's I don't have it as a lean or as a play here, but as I'm looking at it now, it becomes a little more enticing, especially as I'm talking myself into Justin Fields. But let's move on. Let's go on to Minnesota at Washington. You've got another best bet in this game. Go ahead.
Minnesota is hot, and they haven't let me down, and I love the points here, so I'm going to take Minnesota as a 3.5 point favorite at Washington. Got Kirk Cousins coming back to Washington. Kirk Cousins is very good in 1 o'clock games. If it's a primetime game, might be a little bit different, but I'm going to take Minnesota here. They've been really good with controlling the ball. Kirk Cousins just managing the game and doing well. Heineke has looked like a baller, though. He has thrown a couple touchdowns the last couple of weeks, but I think Minnesota is a little bit better in the competition Washington's played. So I'll take Minnesota as a 3.5 point favorite here.
And I've got Minnesota -3.5 as a lean, but I'm actually going to switch that to just a straight bet. I think I absolutely agree with you. And one more time, 43.5 over under. Are we taking it? I think this one I'm even more enticed to take.
The over?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that one too.
I'm willing to put that one on my card. If we want to put that as a bet, I'll put that in the system right here, right now. I'm gonna move over Minnesota, and I'm gonna put a bet on the over at 43.5. I like that. I like that. Kirk Cousin week. All right. I'm moving on to a best bet here. Seattle at Arizona. Seattle, you're seeing it most places at 1.5, but if you're willing to venture over to Caesars Sportsbook, they still would have it at Seattle +2. I don't see why. I really don't see why Arizona's favored at all. I get that they're at home, but they've had two pretty rough losses. Or they had the one win at home. They had a really rough loss this week to Minnesota on the road. They're coming back home, but I still feel like Seattle's the way better team. I get that Gino is not as as sexy a quarterback as Kyler Murray is. But what are we upgrading on Arizona other than over Seattle? Like I'm not upgrading their defense over. I'm not really upgrading their offense. And ultimately, we know at the end of the day, Arizona's probably going to have to come back in this game. So +2 for me feels like an easy smash. Even 1.5. If you don't have Caesars Sportsbook, consider it 1.5 a best bet.
Yeah, I've got Seattle here as a lean at +1.5. Contemplated putting it back and forth between bet and a lean. But I'm going to lean it as a lean right now. I'd be very enticed to take Seattle money line in this one.
Yeah.
That would be a good bet for me there. This is one of my favorite fantasy games for the week. Gino has kept alive Lockett and DK Metcalf. They both look really good. Gino looks really good fantasy wise. And Kenneth Walker is emerging as a top dynasty asset. I know in some places have him as a top 5, some places have him as a top 3 already. And I'm glad I got him when he fell in drafts last year. So I like this game a lot on the Arizona side. Ertz is still tearing it up on the tight end side. Still think he's the number 3 tight end in the league. And I'm curious to see if James Conner comes back, or if they're going to keep Benjamin in there and let Conner rest it up another week.
Yeah, so the thing for me that really puts Seattle over is most of the resurgence that we've seen over the past couple weeks has been I would credit it to DeAndre Hopkins, and and at the very least we found that Kyler's got his isolation guy. And I know Wan'Dale Robinson is no DeAndre Hopkins by any means, but ultimately Seattle is really good at taking away what you do best. And if what you do best is have a guy who can command 10, 15 targets from Kyler Murray, you shut him down and force Kyler to be the scrambler. Okay, you're going to get some scramble yards off Kyler. That's a given. We know that. But ultimately, it's probably not going to be enough for them to win the game. And I think this defense over this... Honestly, what people don't talk... Even when people have been talking about the offense, I think this defense is way more disciplined than people give them credit for on the Seattle side. And to be honest... Again, I really don't know why Arizona's favored. I get that there's a home field advantage, but I mean, would this be a 4-point favorite for Seattle at home? Not even close, right? I feel like this might be Seattle like 5.5, 6, if it was a home game for Seattle. I'm done talking about that. Let's go on to Carolina at Cincinnati, although I'm not that thrilled to talk about this either. Carolina is going to Cincy. Cincinnati is an 8.5-point favorite, and the over/under 43.5. We've seen a little bit of resurgence from Carolina. Ultimately, they're not an offensive juggernaut by any means with PJ Walker, but at the very least, he's helping keep the offense afloat. He's keeping DJ Moore afloat, which I thought never thought I'd say at this point this season. But after Darnold and Matt Corral and Baker and everybody are going down, it's PJ Walker, baby. So I have a problem. I don't know how I feel about this over under. I'm just staying away completely. I think 8.5 might be too much. But again, Cincinnati's rolling. So what do you think, Joe?
Yeah, the 8.5 is big for me there. I'd be tempted to put some money on Carolina. But I'm gonna pretty much avoid this. And this is another one that I marked down as a fantasy favorite because I think that you're playing everyone from Cincinnati no matter what every week. And I think
Absolutely.
in Carolina, you're gonna start Foreman even if Hubbard's playing. And then I think DJ Moore belongs back in lineups with PJ Walker and Christian McCaffrey gone. He's the only person there that can catch a ball. So I'm putting DJ Moore back in my lineups everywhere, and I'm glad that he has some type of a little bit of a rebirth here and another chance to become a good fantasy asset and a league winner for the rest of the season.
A couple fantasy assets from this game, and I actually kind of agree that it's going to be a pretty good fantasy scoring day. I don't don't hear what I'm not saying when I say this. I really like both of these defenses against each other. I think ultimately Carolina is going to get after it, and Joe Burrow has been sacked more than almost any quarterback in the league at this point. So I think they'll probably get after it and get a couple sacks, and maybe if he was a little overzealous, he might even throw an interception or two here. Meanwhile, on the other side, obviously they're going to try and run the ball, but I think that ultimately Cincinnati's going to be ahead. They're going to have to throw, and ultimately that puts Cincinnati in a good position. So I think I like Cincinnati as the better as the defense of choice, but I would actually not mind taking either of these defenses as scoring plays with sacks kind of holding up their value. Let's go on to Green Bay at Detroit. Two teams that are definitely going in the wrong direction for fantasy at this point. Jared Goff had a really nice few weeks. He's kind of turned it back on us. I wonder if he might still have it. I think he's had some pretty rough matchups here. But divisional game against Green Bay, Green Bay needs it bad. The over-under in this one is -3 for Green Bay on the road, and it's 49.5 point over-under. I don't really like the over there. I'm probably going to favor Green Bay in this situation. What do we think here, Joe?
Oh, this is one that is pretty much a straight avoid for me here. I mean, they're calling this one a. Oh, I lied. I mean, if you play in this game in Green Bay, are you giving Green Bay 9?
I mean, out of respect, maybe. I wouldn't bet it though. No.
No, I don't know. I just for some reason I have faith in Detroit. I'd want to lean Detroit at +3. I was looking here at some previous games, and they had a couple close games in the last 3 years. Green Bay is 5-1, dating back to 2019, and they've had 1, 2, 3, 4 1-point scores, or 4 games within 7 points. 4 of those 5. I'm sorry, did I say 4? 1, 2, 3, 6 games. 4 of the 6 have been within 1 score. Granted, some of that included Matthew Stafford versus Aaron Rodgers, but I still think that these teams know each other like the back of their hands. It's going to be a hard-fought game, and divisional games are always close. So I'll take Detroit on a game that I would like to avoid.
Here's the thing: is I would, if anything, I'd take the money line because ultimately,
Yeah.
I think. I don't know how motivated. Obviously, Green Bay has been motivated to win over the past 10 years, but I don't think they've had to be that motivated in order to beat Detroit in that same span of time. This one, Green Bay needs real bad, right? They need it real bad. They need to figure something out. I think even though they didn't look so great against Buffalo, at the very least, it looked like they were sort of getting something going against a pretty solid defense. So I think it'll be easier for them to do it. The real thing would be, this could honestly be Detroit's Super Bowl this year, right? Like this game right here might be their Super Bowl, and I could easily see them laying everything out there to just win this game. So if you're gonna make that play, I think it's money line for me. But like you said, I'm kind of not avoiding. So if you have that play, I'd say money line, but ultimately avoid. Indiana is going to New England, and they are 5.5 point dogs, and with Sam Ellinger at quarterback. Do you have any first glance reactions to Sam Ellinger here, Joe?
I'll be honest. I didn't watch any football on Sunday. I didn't watch any. I was out in the woods from like 9 a.m. until like 3 o'clock. I didn't watch any football.
That's awesome. So I was trying to watch football most of the day, and for whatever reason, my internet was not cooperating. So I was able to watch a game. I wasn't on my normal Galaxy Brain four screens like I normally am. But it is good from time to time to get out there and get yourself some fresh air while you're doing it. It's you're going to games every single week, so any week that you probably don't have one is like gold, right? So
Well, it was nice. I got to hang out with some buddies, but I don't know. I look forward to going to all those games. Those
I'm
are
sure you do. All right, let's. So anyway, Sam Ellinger did not look great this past week. I think ultimately you've got to make a turn from Matt Ryan. That's fine. You've got to move in a different direction. I get it, but I have a hard time. I have a hard time seeing Sam Ellinger keep these passing weapons afloat. He kind of is. He's already not really passing the ball to many of his running backs, like you were seeing Matt Ryan do. All that kind of went away just in that one game, and I think ultimately that's going to be what Sam Ellinger's scramble is going to take all that kind of away from the offense. It's going to be harder to want to play any of these flex options like Alec Pierce or Michael Pittman, or you probably don't want to be playing Hines or any of the tight ends either. But so really, I think it's Jonathan Taylor, and it's probably the same Jonathan Taylor we've been seeing all season. Not quite the RB1 we were hoping for at the beginning of the year. It's Michael Pittman probably as a top 20 play on a regular basis. But really, I think it kind of tanks everybody else, and it makes Colts overall kind of in a void. And in this game, I'm going to be leaning Patriots -5.5. And I think actually the better play right now for me is still the under, because Mac hasn't looked all that great. I imagine he's coming back in. I think both teams are going to be working really hard to run this ball and keep the time of possession in their hands, and not necessarily worry too much about putting up the points. The only team that might run away with it is New England. If they decide to step on the throat at home, they have been known to do that. But I think honestly, -5.5 and the under are decent plays.
Yeah, I'm kind of avoiding this one because again, I don't know what New England team we're going to get. I mean, they're back at home. They've been really wishy-washy this year. They've played up to some good teams. They've played down to the bad teams. They've lost to some bad teams. So we don't know what we're going to get. So I'd rather not touch it. But it's kind of going back to what you were saying is the Colts fantasy options do not look very promising. I mean, outside of Michael Pittman, he had like a 39% target share, but that was only on Ellinger passed 23 times. He had 7 catches on 9 targets. And I think, like you said, Jonathan Taylor is going to be high volume runner. Hope that he gets the yardage, but I just don't see this offense scoring many points for the rest of the year.
Yeah, it's going to be, and honestly, they've not been a team that's been long to score a lot of points. The past couple of years, if they can help it, they've been really a Jonathan Taylor run it down the throat teams. And honestly, a lot of their scoring has come from their defense, which has not been as good as it has been in the past. It did have a pretty good showing with Shaq Leonard back this past week, though. So maybe they turn that around. I just don't see a lot of fantasy output from this game. I don't see a lot of fantasy output for the Colts. And honestly, because the Colts have such a late bye, week 14, and you have a team that's struggling that needs a player right now, maybe now is the time to try and flip Michael Pittman. If you can get a better receiver on a bye, I'm thinking for this more strictly redraft. I don't know if you're going to get away with this play in Dynasty, but if you want to trade away somebody that you can get a better player, maybe you want to take a risk on Jamar Chase coming back kind of early. This guy is going to be playing all the way through week 13, and players that need production are going to look at Michael Pittman and say, I don't have to take him out of my lineup ever. But they might be saying that 2 or 3 weeks from now when Sam Ellinger is just a complete dud for them week after week. So if you want to do short-term play, I'd say try and sell Michael Pittman in redraft. Maybe see if you can do it in Dynasty, but I don't think it's going to happen. But right now, if you can get out of Indy, I think kind of have to. Let's move on to a game that let's move on to another game. I'm gonna lay some more points. What do you think about it? I've got another best bet. Buffalo Bills going to New York to take on the Jets. They're laying 13. I don't care. I'm taking it. Zach Wilson is cooked, man. It's over, and this is the game. This game happens every year in New York. It's the game where the welcome wagon is officially over and the boo birds are out. The guys with the paper bags on their heads are going to be in the stands. It's going to be happening, and honestly, they're going to. This is the funeral for the Jets this year. There was some hope early on. This is the funeral, and I think 13 is probably going to be too. Honestly, the Bills 6-1 against the spread. We're not going to talk about that. They're not going to talk about that one cover that we missed last week by half a point. But this is the one where they're going to come back. They're going to stay against the spread. The team, the AFC division leader, loves nothing more than to just destroy the Jets year after year. So I can't imagine how happy it's going to make Josh Allen to see the Jets fans leave in the third quarter or even earlier than that. So best bet, Buffalo minus 13.
Yeah, I'll take it as a lean. I just it scares me, but I don't know. Divisional game. Jets defense has been good. I don't know if it's going to be good enough to take down Buffalo or even keep it close. But one matchup that I am actually real excited to see in this is Sauce Gardner versus Stephon Diggs. Yes. That's going to be. Sauce has looked like a Pro Bowl cornerback out there this year, and you don't typically see that from a first year rookie cornerback. It usually takes those guys a year or two to really get up to speed and really show that progression. But he's shown to be a really mature corner, and I really want to see what he can do against an all-pro corner like Stephon Diggs.
I mean, he's absolutely legit. You're 100% right. I'm really excited for that matchup as well. But the problem is, even no matter how good he's going to be and how good that defense has been, you eventually just run out of hope when you know your quarterback just can't make the plays for you. My God, if you can't do it against Brett Rippon, I mean, think about all the luck that the Jets have had this season. They played against Brett Rippon. They played against I can't even think of his name on the Dolphins.
Thompson.
What's his? No, yeah, Skylar Thompson. They're playing. I mean, they've had a ton of help to get them to the point they are right now. Breece Hall going down was probably the nail in the coffin. The receivers can't. I mean, Elijah Moore is saying, I don't know what's going on. I don't get the ball. Garrett Wilson has already said that he likes Joe Flacco as a quarterback over Zach Wilson. I think eventually the tide is already turned, and I think this is the game where it's all over. Everybody sees that the defense might even get them a defensive touchdown early or something like that. I don't predict that's going to happen, but they could even get them a defensive touchdown early, and I still would not be surprised if the Bills came out and still rolled over by 13. Because ultimately Zach Wilson, it's going to be on Zach Wilson, and if you're leaving it in the hands of Zach Wilson, you're making a huge mistake. So I'm waiting.
That is the most I've seen you animated about any matchup that we've done this year.
Yeah. Oh man, I just can't stand Zach Wilson anymore. I really hope that he. I don't think he's gone. I think they're gonna really try and work it out. But they've already this week. Robert Saleh is combating against. There was never a question that he was gonna put Mike White in the game over Zach Wilson at all last week. So we know it's coming. It is coming. It cannot be more. It cannot be They can't be telling you it. Wow. They can't be telegraphing this more than they already are. So get out of the Jets if you can, and because this is ultimately what happens every 2 years, if not every 1 year. Let's move on.
I'm looking at the AFC East standings here.
They should make the playoffs. You're right, but they're not going to.
No, I'm not looking at that. I'm looking at the Jets are 1-3 at home and 4-0 on the road. So I like that. I like that 13 a lot better now.
Yeah, The Jets don't play well in front of their fans because ultimately, even I went to that Dolphins game. Okay, they were willing to just to give up on the Jets. They were winning and they're willing to give up on their team. Okay, so what are they gonna do when they're playing against Josh Allen and they're down 7? They're gonna. I mean, people are gonna be pissed in the first quarter. I can almost guarantee it. But before the first half, if there's a bet that I could take for Jets fans booing the team off the field in the first half, I would take it. I would put $1,000 on it today. All right, but I can't talk about it anymore. Let's move on to my number one best bet. It's Las Vegas going to Jacksonville, and the over is 47.5. We just saw Las Vegas get blanked. They're going to be a West Coast team traveling back east again. We're going to be seeing Jacksonville coming back from London. Both teams on the offensive struggle bus. I still am favoring Jacksonville to win this game. I'll give them 1.5, although London returning teams don't fare that well against the spread. That's why it's only a lean. But my God, 47.5. Do we think this game is going to go 24-24? I can't see it happening. One of these teams. 17-10. That's what it feels like to me. It's one of those. It's going to be one of those a touchdown apiece, 3 or 4 field goals apiece, and that's kind of how it's going to end up being. I can't see this one going. I really hope that Trevor Lawrence does start to turn it around. I think that he's putting some onus on his shoulders after the loss last week. But that doesn't mean he's going to lead him to a win. I think that's going to happen. But I don't think it's enough to put it over 47.5. So that's my number one best bet, under 47. And you're coming with me on that as well.
Yeah, I'm taking a best bet here at the 47.5 under there. Vegas they look bad.
It's two teams that
bad.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I think ultimately Las Vegas is just going to keep rolling with it. They're going to keep trying to roll it out there, and it's just not going to happen.
As I say this, I look and realize that I marked this as a fantasy favorite.
Yeah, I think we gotta cover it. I think maybe we each have 5 plays that we like on fantasy favorites. That's
we'll have to cut that down here. I mean, I like this game because, I mean, I went Travis Etienne heavy in redraft this year in the couple of leagues that I did, and he's finally paying off. Having a couple places in Dynasty where I got him in startups last year and kind of tanked a little bit last year, and now my team is kind of up and coming, making some moves here. But yeah, I like the under here, and I like putting Jacksonville money line on this game on a little 2 or 3 teamer.
I like Jacksonville money line
as the kicker there.
I can take that. That's pretty good. I'm usually too chicken to play the money line. I like playing the chess game that is the spread usually. But yeah, I think Jacksonville probably wins this game. I think they're ultimately going to want it more. I think the Raiders are just going to roll it out there. They're playing because a paycheck's tied to it, but I don't know if their season's over, right? Their season's over, and it doesn't benefit them to continue winning. Jacksonville, at the very least, yes, it doesn't benefit them to continue winning as far as the pick at the end of the year is concerned. But I don't know if they care that much about this. I think they'd rather just see some cohesiveness. Travis Etienne, like you said, I don't think that the team needs to score that many points for him to still be effective. He's still going to get those dump-off passes. And ultimately, he's getting you – what he's doing is getting you chunk yardage, right? That's his play right now, is chunk yardage. You love to see a touchdown here or there, but right now it's he's making these big plays that basically make his day in one or two of them. So got to feel good about ETN right now. And really, historically, we probably should have, once James Robinson's out of the picture, it's easy to see coming. But Jacksonville has historically had a really pretty reliable running back room as long as you can have a pretty clear idea of who that number one guy is. Let's move on. Last game of the week. This should be the game of the week. It's the Los Angeles Rams heading to Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay's favored by 3, and we got a 42.5 over/under. I feel like I'm a broker report. I'm saying it's going to happen now. It's going to happen now. It's going to happen now. Tom Brady's going to figure it out. I'm going to take Tampa -3 as a best bet for me. Even if he doesn't quite have the full offense figured out, I think that this is a game that he's got marked. And really, LA has just looked so bad. They're coming east against Tampa Bay. Just got destroyed by San Francisco. So I expect them to try and put up a fight, but They've got to figure out their running back room. They're looking to Kyron Williams, which I think he'll probably be fantasy relevant going forward here. But I don't know if that necessarily means that he's going to be valuable. If he's going to be valuable right off the bat, or anytime soon. Ultimately, Stafford has not been one to send to pass to his running back historically. And then Cooper Kupp looks like he's going to. More importantly, Cooper Kupp looks like he might not play this game. I think ultimately he will. But we're not sure exactly who that is. Patriots are a little banged up on defense, but I don't think that's enough to take 3 points or lay 3 points for Tampa Bay.
Yeah, I'm gonna take Tampa Bay here as a straight bet at -3. Like I said, I think they started hot against the Ravens on Thursday night. They're coming off the long break, and I think that Tampa Bay is gonna have a good time with this game. The Rams look bad. Their offensive line is still having issues. And, yeah, I think Tom Brady turns it around finally.
The hardest thing about so the divorce part of it is over. It ended kind of last week that it's officially filed, and at the very least there's got to be some feeling of closure, right? That exists there. I'm hoping that's something that Tom could put in the rearview mirror. I really think at the very least it's not like what we're seeing in Green Bay, where there's almost nothing to show for what they're doing. Every week, at the very least, you're seeing Tom make great throws, and they're not connecting. He's not quite connecting with his receivers at all times. I wonder if Gronk makes his way back here at some point in the near future. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
I don't see it.
I don't see it happening, but I didn't see it happening last year either. I mean, Skinny Gronk played us all last year, like it doesn't mean, or was it 2 years ago? Skinny Gronk played everybody. So who knows I haven't seen Gronk in a while, so maybe he's out in the weight room lifting weights, and if that's the case, maybe he's on his way back. But either way, I think ultimately they're going to get it figured out here. I think LA's spirit is kind of broken, and at this point, it's hard to salvage the season. This is a revenge game for Tampa at home. It was a divisional round that they played last year, right?
I believe so.
Yeah, divisional round, and then they played San Francisco in the championship round. So, I think Tom Brady's had this one marked. I think ultimately it's his game to lose, and he's still going to fight to make the playoffs. He's like right now, Carolina is still in it. I can't see that being the case much longer. Tom's going to get it figured out.
That division winner could be 8-9 or 9-8.
If it is 8 or 9 and 9 and 8, I don't see how it can't be Tom Brady's team that's doing it. Right. You know what I mean? Like
they're the new NFC East over here.
Yes, they are. They are. Yeah, don't talk bad about that NFC East. They're
on the up and up.
I never would have expected it. So honestly, a good week for betting. Last couple weeks have been really fun. A lot of the spreads have been really pretty solid. I think everybody's getting a little sharper here, but if you put the time in, if you come out Monday before the games, take a look at it this week. I'm not saying you even have to place these bets right now. We're giving you our best bets. But maybe you just follow the line for the rest of the week and see how it goes. And if you see it move one direction or to the other, that's when you strike. We're making the best bets because we've got to tonight. But you can make your bet. You can make your determination here anytime. Remember always to make sure that you're doing this in moderation. We're doing this mostly for fun and insider means. And if you have a problem gambling, please make sure you're seeking help in your state. And I'm sure there's plenty of hotlines for you to call and websites for you to seek out. I don't have them all here. I'm sorry. But we're going to wish you a good week here. Shuey, are we going to try and do a show Thursday night and sort of check out where our bets are at that point?
Yeah, maybe we'll do that. Maybe we'll get the waiver out behind the scenes and get it at least posted out and shown on Thursday.
Yeah, we can do that. I like that. We'll get one beta tested tonight. Maybe we can even run it for tomorrow if you want, because it's actually waivers tomorrow. But I'm thinking next Monday we're gonna try and start a waiver thing. We might take a little less time on all the bets on Mondays. Get the waivers in, and really just give you our best bet plays and all that, and then we'll push the rest to the end of the week, especially if there's games that we're kind of avoiding at that point. So a couple shakeups coming up here. We appreciate y'all for watching. Make sure that you're subscribing to Primetime Fantasy. Give us a little like here. And if you've been paying attention the past couple weeks to us, we've been making you money. We've been working really hard. Shuey and I are both working hard to make sure that we're getting plays and trying to find an edge. And it's really shown. Shuey and I still 7-0. We're coming up against another best bet tonight. Game has already started here. We've got one more to be 8-0. We've got 3 more consensus bets that we've got this week. That's the under in the Jacksonville game. That's Minnesota -3.5. Or no, sorry, we got the Eagles -13. We've got the under in the Jacksonville game, and then we've got, is that it? Are those
we have those two. We have the did you do Cincinnati best bet from last week? Yeah, we've got
and we have Cincinnati tonight. Yeah. We got Cincinnati tonight. We've got the
Philly.
Under, and then we've got Philly. So we've got a few more coming. And so far we've been rolling on that. I really hope that we can keep that streak going. But everybody out there, have a good week. We'll try and catch you again on Thursday. Other than that, let's have a great week. Let's enjoy this game. Shuey, have a good night, man.
Next man, you too.